From the headquarters of the Guild of Champions, this is the Becoming Thin podcast, and I am your host, Chris Terrell. And welcome to another week of your weight loss quest. How did this last week go for you, champion? What new challenges did you encounter? But more importantly, what failure did you go through? And what lesson did you get from that failure? Come on now. Don't let a perfectly good failure go by without you getting your lesson. That's your reward for your troubles. Now, if you're new here, I've lost 125 pounds myself after an entire adulthood of chronic yo-yo dieting. Up, down, up again. Before I finally got sick and tired of being sick and tired and fat. And I made some permanent, meaningful, and actual changes to my real-life lifestyle, habits, routines, environment, community, into my systems of belief. Because it's all 6 of those things that create the results in my life. And if you want to get new results in yours, you're going to have to go change those same 6 things. And I'm here each week to help you get that transformation in your life. I love being here, and I love doing this podcast. So much fun every week. And this last week, I did a workshop. I'll tell you a little bit more about it here in a little bit. But this week, I'm answering questions straight from the Becoming Thin Facebook group. We've got some great ones that I think are going to really resonate with you, especially if you've been working through emotional eating or struggling to stay consistent. And also, as I was just saying about that workshop, I think it was a success. So many people walked away with mindset shifts that I know will change the course of their journey. And if you went through it, you probably won't ever listen to the intro of the podcast the same way again. Now, in this episode, as I said, I'm sharing a few pieces of insight that didn't make it into the final version of the live event. A bonus, as it were, that I think you'll find powerful. There's actually several things that I wanted to squeeze into that event that I wasn't able to get into it. So I thought, hey, let's cover some of it here. Now, we're also, as I said, taking listener questions. And if you'd like to submit a question and possibly hear it answered here on the podcast, just head on over to Facebook and search for Becoming Thin or click the link in the show notes below. And you can join the free community there. And if you've been trying to understand your hunger more, especially how it shows up emotionally and physically, I've got a free guide for you over at becomingthin.com. I'll walk you through a simple process to study your hunger and to start building better awareness, which is a huge key in permanent weight loss. So we're going to kick things off with a listener question. This one comes from Spencer. If I wanted to lose weight and also break an addictive bad habit like excess drinking, smoking, gambling, etc., do you think it would be better to tackle one and then later the other, or tackle them both at the same time? And I did already respond to you a little bit, actually, in the group, but I thought it was an interesting point because it's something that I've heard mentioned several times. You know, Chris, I'm wanting to lose weight, but I also have this other thing going on in my life that's going to require a great deal of transformation from myself. And the first time I had a client that was bringing this up, I was talking with a friend of mine about another coach friend of like, how should we look at these sorts of situations? So we really both came away with the same conclusion. It's like, do both. I mean, that's what I did. I had multiple transformations within me that needed to happen. And rather than doing them sequentially, I just did them all at once. But there's a major difference, though, is when I was doing them all at once, I wasn't trying to do it fast. I was giving myself time. If you're okay with this transformation taking a couple of years to get completed, then yes, you should be able to do them both all at once. And it'll probably be more resilient. But if you're trying to fix everything overnight, well, then no, I don't. I think you'd probably overwhelm yourself. But if you do it slowly, letting time work for you, and you're trying to change those multiple things, maybe you got some bad habits, some vices, as it were, you'll start to get the benefits all along the way as you start working towards it, right? So it's like, why not do both? You'll start receiving benefits immediately in both areas. And what you described here, it's really an identity shift. It's not just habit change that you're describing. You're not trying to manage drinking or food as an example. You're becoming someone who doesn't need those tools anymore. You hear the difference? Like, I'm the person that needs this drink to handle this stressful thing at work. I'm the person that needs this food to handle this stressful time at home. Well, what if you instead change your identity to, no, I'm not even the kind of person that needs that stuff. It's actually different. That's identity level transformation. And the other reason why I think this would be important to do together is, well, these behaviors are probably connected. Addictions and food issues, these are emotional twins, I guess you could say. And if you're working on one, but not touching the other, like you might be like, all right, I'm working on the food, but that might make the other problematic addiction worse. Or you might start working on the addiction, and that might make the food issue worse, right? Like you're sort of, how could I describe this? Oh, here we go. This is what it'd be like. I would compare it to like a debt consolidation loan, but without ever solving the shopaholic syndrome. So let's say a person, they're bad with their finances and they're a shopaholic, right? So they've got all their credit cards. All their credit cards are maxed out. And they're thinking, all right, I got to get out of this debt because I can't keep going shopping because I got all this debt. And so then it comes along somebody offering them a debt consolidation loan. They're like, yes, we can take all your debt and put it under one umbrella and have a lower monthly payment. And so the person does this, but they don't cancel all the other credit cards. So what they've actually just done is just increase their debt limit that they can have. And now they just immediately go rack up everything on the credit cards, right? You see, so they're like, these are two connected problems, but they affect each other, right? So we solved one problem of, yeah, I'm out of debt. We've solved the debt problem. But because we didn't solve the shopaholic problem, the debt just ran right back up. And now we have an even bigger debt problem. So I think go for both, but just do it slowly. I think it'll get you a much better result. And go, but do this strategically, right? We're talking about going all in, but I'm not saying go all in like recklessly. Do this thoughtfully. Deliberately seek to increase your self-awareness in multiple areas. Deliberately seek to understand what your triggers are. Intentionally work on improving your emotional regulation, improving your emotional intelligence, learning to have other additional coping mechanisms to go with your emotions. Because what you're describing with food or with these addictions, usually these are an effect. They're not the cause. They're a byproduct of something. A lot of times stress for people. And so I think if you can lower the stress, either by just removing stressful influences or altering how you process the stress, I think that'll really help you with this one. And you don't need to rush into this, though. You're not chasing a deadline. You're building a new lifestyle. You're building a new way of doing things. And just remember, when you set off to do this, like give yourself 18 to 24 months before before you're taking stock, right? Like you can look at your going and course correct and stuff, but don't expect to be done with transformation for a couple of years, because you also got to have some periods of time where you don't relapse to show that it's real. But the beauty is the benefits won't just show up at the end. You'll start getting them as you go. And don't fear this long road. Don't fear the long road, because at the end of the long road is results. And I think results are what you're actually looking for. Great question. Excellent. Thanks for asking it. All right, we'll be back in just a moment. All right. We're back, taking more questions from you. But before we dig into the questions today, I want to talk about some things that weren't able to make it into my workshop this last week. I'm going to talk about failure a little bit more. I talk about failure at the beginning of every episode of the podcast. What failure did you go through? I say that because failure, I truly believe, is one of the most powerful teachers there is. But only if you're willing to see it that way. For a good long portion of my life, I did not see it that way. As an example, every failed diet, every time I didn't stick to a plan, I just felt like it was more proof that I wasn't good enough, right? Every time I failed, it was just another piece of evidence. And I wore those failures like a badge of shame in my mind. But what I didn't understand until later, and now I do, is that those failures were also a record of everything I had learned. Every single failure had lessons in it. And it took me way too long to understand this. I wish I had discovered it sooner, but I discovered it when I did. And when I did, everything in my life started shifting. Like this didn't stay isolated to just my weight loss, not at all. When I started working on failure and how I approached it, it started altering how I approached every aspect of my life. But it did also help me to look at my past diets differently. No longer were these past diets wasted. Now these past diets taught me what didn't work, but they also gave me elements of truth on what does. These past diets showed me what I don't like. They showed me what I'm not able to stick to for whatever different reason. These past diets also showed me what burns me out. Like I learned 800 calories a day burns me out pretty damn fast. That's not failure. That's data. Now, I like to reference the old story of Thomas Edison. You know, he didn't invent the light bulb by avoiding failure. Rather, he had to lean into it. He had to learn from every single failure and then iterate forward. If you look at all great innovators, they failed their way forward. You could look at Elon Musk, or whatever you want to say about him, but and SpaceX and the way they did the rockets, they failed and failed and failed, each time learning and taking that lesson and carrying it forward. And now look what they're doing today. It's pretty mind-boggling. But all of this success was built on top of a mountain and millions and millions and millions of dollars of failure. Now, you see, once I reframed my weight loss, my past weight loss journeys that way, it made it easier to not be mad at myself anymore. You know, I was pretty mad at my past self before for how big I had gotten. I didn't like that I was that big. You know, but when I was able to not be mad at my past self, I wasn't as frustrated. In fact, I was able to get even more curious about my past. I actually started getting even excited about digging into it and looking to the future, because it started thinking things like, well, what else can I try? And then when I try something that didn't work, I'd be like, well, what can I learn from this? What lesson can I pick up from this and carry forward? I started realizing that every failure just takes me one step closer to success. But reframing failure, that was just part of the shift. That's just a part. The real breakthrough with failure, it came when I realized I had been completely overlooking the strengths I already had. You see, I'd spent decades solving messy problems in my career in commercial cleaning, both metaphorically and literally messy. But you see, I'd built systems, managed complexity, led projects, managed to find a way to organize chaos. And yet, in my own life, I convinced myself I didn't have what it took to organize it. I convinced myself that somehow I was a mess too big to clean up, that I was the exception, that my problems were so special they just couldn't be fixed. Mine were unfixable. I tried everything. I had just made too many bad choices, and now I am where I am. You know, I just didn't have that it factor to have my personal life be what I wanted. How does that happen, though? How did that happen to me, I wondered. Have you ever wondered that? How did I become so blind to my own strengths? How do so many people become so blinded to their own power? When that hit me, that thought that I've been blinding myself to my own power, when I finally saw it, it was like finding a tool for my success that I'd been sitting on the whole time. It's like, oh, you mean the very tool of my salvation has been sitting at my feet the whole time, as in me? I realized I'm not starting from scratch. I already had the skills. I just had to look to where I had been successful in one part of life and transfer those skills to the other place. I just hadn't applied it to my own life for lots of reasons, but you see, the systems, the planning, problem solving, these weren't things I just had to do at my job. I could use them for build my own life. And when I did that, when I took my work skills and applied them to myself, something happened. I didn't feel stuck. I didn't feel powerless. It's like I have a plan. This feels doable. I felt in control again. Not because I knew what was going to happen. No. I just knew that if I'm capable of solving these complex problems over there, and every time I do it, I fail all the time, but I just keep iterating forward. If I do that here, I know it will work. I've started to feel hope. I started to feel energized. So let me ask you something. Are you overlooking your own strengths? Are you letting failure blind you to your own power and to your own lessons that are perfectly crafted from you from your own experiences? What are you already good at? Are you great at organizing? Are you great at motivating others? Are you great at finding creative solutions at work when things feel stuck? Are you great at looking at a problem and then working it again and again and again and not giving up? And do you only have to do that if you're getting a paycheck? Or are you willing to do that just to become thin? What if what you already know how to do is the key to solving your biggest personal challenges? You don't need permission to start. You don't need anyone's approval. It's your life. You don't have any red tape you have to jump through. It's just you deciding finally to use what you already have for you. You don't even need to get anybody's permission to use your strengths for you. And that's where the real freedom is. The lesson here isn't just reframe failure. Yes, that's important. Yes, get your lesson. But it's also about recognizing that if now you're not careful, this fear of failure and this negative relationship with failure will cause you to not be able to recognize your own power. You won't be able to recognize that you already have what you need and you just might not be looking at it the right way. So instead of asking yourself the question of, why am I stuck? Ask a more helpful question. What am I good at? And how can I use that with my weight loss? When I stopped seeing failure as proof I was broken, and instead started to seeing it as lessons I'd learned and proof of progress, I gave myself permission to move forward. Now, a word on that, though, by the way, little side tangent. Keep your mistakes original, right? Like don't keep making the same failure over and over and over again. Keep your failures original as often as you can. But as I started to work through that, I realized I already had all the tools, and I was able to give myself power to act. Those two shifts together, that's when my momentum really started to take off. So I'll leave you with this thought. What skills are you sitting on? What strengths have you built through your work, your life, your story? And what lessons have your failure already taught you? Because you might be closer to a breakthrough than you think. But this time, it's for you, not for your employer. All right, we'll be back in just a minute. This is the Becoming Thin podcast. Welcome back to the Becoming Thin podcast, where we're taking questions from listeners in the Becoming Thin Facebook group. Now, before I get jumping too far into this, I want to tell you something real quick. 6 years ago, this week, 6 years ago, I was sitting in my car, overweight, overwhelmed, and honestly just done. I've told the story before. I'm not going to tell it again, but my weight loss journey kicked off 6 years ago this week. And to celebrate that, I've opened the doors to the Guild, and I'm doing something special. You can join this week and get 50% off your first month. Just use the promo code MOWL2025 at checkout. That's MOWL2025 at checkout. That'll get you 50% off. And if you've been listening to this podcast and thinking, I really want to be around people who get it, I want to get more of this mindset first content for weight loss, then the Guild is where you're going to get the live coaching with me. You're going to get a powerful community of people walking the exact same path as you, including ahead of you. You'll get guidance on how to manage your emotional eating, and you'll also still get to eat the foods you love. We'll teach you how to do that. So if you're ready to stop doing this alone, now's the time to join. Promo code MOWL 2025, and you will also find a link to that in the show notes of the podcast. Now, we're taking a question. This person wanted to remain anonymous, so we do take those questions because I know some questions people are just scared to ask because they're afraid of the answers. There's topics that people are afraid to talk about. This is one of those, and it's about relationships and weight loss and transformation. It's an important topic, and I think we should talk about it. So I'm going to go ahead and take this on. So let's read the question. I've lost 75 pounds in 2 years. I'm married and have been with my partner for 12 years. They've always been inactive and enjoy junk food, which I associate with my past self. Now I prioritize different things like healthy food, working out. Food isn't just the main focus anymore. My partner's mobility is declining and they're not interested in changing, even though they're proud of me. It's starting to cause a rift between us. They don't criticize me, but there is a disconnect. I've changed and they haven't. The person then asks how to navigate this, saying, I never expected getting healthy to change my marriage so much in this way. This is such a important topic to discuss here because many of you are in a relationship right now as you're seeking to change. And the reality is, if you and your partner have both been overweight and food was a major part of your life and sitting, doing stuff, always sitting, and you're changing all that, the reality is you're changing the unspoken contract of the relationship. And this is tricky. It's hard to know sometimes how to lead by example without pushing, but you also feel that when you go to do these things, you feel the pulling away. Sometimes it makes a person feel like they're pitted between choosing a connection or sacrificing their growth. Or it's like, but how do I do both? And this is a tricky topic. So thank you again for sharing this. Because as I said, this happens a lot during long-term transformation. And we're just not often warned about this when we start. You expect weight loss to change your body. You don't expect it to reshape your entire marriage, but it does. Because as you evolve, the foundation, I guess, of the relationship, it'll start shifting, it'll feel like. And sometimes this shift can bring you closer, actually. But sometimes it actually creates distance. So let's talk about what I think is really going on here. Again, I don't have all the information, but based off of what I'm reading. Relationships, they thrive with two things, I've learned. You need compatibility and you need chemistry. If you lose one, the relationship can feel a little bit like limping. It's like you rolled an ankle, right? You can still get around, but you're definitely compromised. Now, if you lose both, chemistry and compatibility, it's like breaking both your ankles, and it's tough. But you see, especially with the compatibility one, it's not necessarily always about love. Love comes into it, but it's also about shared values, shared rhythms of life, shared priorities, what's important to you, what's not important to you. And right now, it sounds like you're in a value shift. You're becoming someone new. You're changing your routines, your lifestyle, even your identity is probably evolving. The way you want to spend your time is starting to change. And because of how you want to spend your time, it's causing your very routines to change. And so you want to go to the gym, and your partners, you all use, I'm going to hypothetically make something up. I don't know. Let's say you both usually were sitting at home watching TV after work, but you're now wanting to take an hour and a half of that time to go work on yourself. It literally will and it's always you doing it. It will feel like you're always pulling away. That's what it's always going to feel like, as opposed to if your partner was doing something, you could be like, well, I'm just going to do my thing while they're doing their thing. It's tricky when you've only had an our thing and not a my thing. That's not me. Now, some people did. We did it with things like games and things like that. But, your partner, though, while proud of you, it sounds like the truth is your partner is not evolving in the same direction as you are. So here's what I've got to say first. People change. We all do. And when we get married, we're not just committing to who someone is in that moment. We're also committing to who they will become. You're going to have to continually fall in love with your person again, because you loved the person they were when you met, but they're going to grow. You have to continue to fall in love with them into this new version. So your partner is, does your partner love this new version of you? Do you love your partner now? We're going to circle back to that, but I want to talk about, as I read your question, there's one thing that was missing. What does your partner think? What does your partner feel about all this? What is your partner afraid or hoping for, or quietly dealing with? Like you said, your partner is proud of you. You didn't tell me how you know that, like if you are inferring it or if your partner has said it. I don't know. They are different, right? But that's what your partner thinks about you, feels about you. What is your partner feeling? What is your transformation causing your partner to feel? I would be curious about that. And you might know that, and you just haven't included it in the post, which is totally okay. But if you don't know that, and for anybody listening, make sure you're finding out what your partner is feeling. Don't be just interested in your side. But the only way to find that out, and honestly, probably the only way you're going to get through this whole thing, is through frequent, honest, and compassionate conversation. Because when you're in a relationship, transforming is disorienting not just for you, it's disorienting for your partner. It's very disorienting. If your partner doesn't know what you're feeling, or if you don't know what they're feeling, that gap between you might continue to silently grow. And that is how resentment builds. Untold truths are like mold in a house. It grows in the dark. And sometimes you don't even realize the mold is going until you discover the rot years later. And couples, this happens. Resentment sometimes build under the surface, completely unknown. But because there's not enough open, honest, fully genuine communication, it can cause problems down the road and spoil the relationship. So have the conversation, even if it's hard. Actually, especially if it's hard. Ask them, but do it with curiosity. Ask them, how are you experiencing our relationship lately? Tell them, I'm feeling a little distant. Are you feeling it too, or is it just me? Check in with them. Maybe it's a shared experience. And if it's not, your partner deserves to know this is how you feel. You could ask your partner, what does it feel like to be on the outside of what I'm doing? Like, I feel like I'm constantly pulling away to go work on me. And sometimes I'm feeling this guilt because I want to be here with you and I don't want to make you feel like I'm rejecting you, but I really need to spend this time to work on me. Can you give me some reassurance or help me know how you're feeling? Like, you could just talk to them. Let them know what you're feeling. Let them know what you're afraid of. But you got to also be truly willing to hear what they're feeling, what they're afraid of. Because then once all this is out in the open, now you can begin to work on it together. But I want to be really honest with you. Sometimes, and this is for everybody listening, actually. Let me just address this one as a general, because I don't know enough about your situation. I'm not comfortable directing this to you. Let me just talk about relationships and transformation in general. Sometimes a person on this journey, the lifestyle shift is so profound that the compatibility doesn't survive. It becomes a canyon between the two people. Sometimes the old relationship gets superimposed onto the new one, and only one person truly sees how deep the rift has become. And often it's the changing person, because the changing person, to change, you often have to connect with a deeper sense of reality, and the other person might still be in denial that you're not changing that much. So in other words, sometimes these transformations end relationships. And I'm not saying this to push anyone towards ending a relationship. I'm not. But what I'm just saying is some relationships don't survive real transformation. That's not failure. That's just the truth. This happens for all sorts of major changes, not just weight loss, anything where a person has a tremendous healing work. I've learned a lot about EMDR the last year. I'm going to use this as an example. Sometimes when trauma heals a person, that person finally sees what they couldn't see before. And sometimes when a person heals, they realize that they built and got into a relationship from a wounded place. And now that the wound is gone, the illusion that made the relationship look like it fit goes away too. Sometimes people in transformation wake up and realize they're in a relationship they never should have gotten into in the first place, but their trauma made it where they couldn't see that. And so the relationship ends. But here's my challenge to everybody listening, okay? Turn over every rock before you get there. Do not jump to, it's over. Guess it's too late. We don't agree. Guess we might as well end this thing. No, it's not what I'm saying. Don't do that. Flip over every rock. Look for every solution. Do whatever you got to do. You think therapy is expensive? Try divorce, okay? Do what you got to do. Don't jump to ending it. But also, on the other side of that coin, don't sit back hoping it's just going to fix itself. No. If you are going on a big transformation, if you and your partner are both obese when you started this journey, do not just hope that your relationship sorts itself out. Attack that head on. Do the work. Have the conversations. Go to therapy together if you need to. Many of you might need to. And give each other the chance to grow into the next version of yourselves. This is your turn, right? Don't abandon them because you've changed, because one day the tables are going to turn. They might change and outgrow you. And then you're going to not want to be left behind. Grow together, and you may not always grow at the same rate. But sometimes in this process, it becomes clear that you're walking in two different directions. Sometimes that happens. And if that happens, my advice, release with love. Don't release with bitterness. Don't release with blame. Release with peace and respect. No matter what happens, if you've done everything you can, you'll know that you did your part. You'll know you truly did everything possible. You know, if you communicate open and honestly, you'll know you told the truth. If you ask for their feelings, you'll know you tried to get them to talk. You'll know that you have honored yourself. You have honored the relationship. That's what it means to grow with integrity. That doesn't always mean you save it. Sometimes it ends. But don't rush to it. Do everything you can to save it. Communicate, communicate, communicate. Great question. Glad we got to talk about this. This is the Becoming Thin podcast. Welcome back to the Becoming Thin podcast, where we are taking questions from members of the Becoming Thin Facebook group. Josh posted this next question to the group, and it hit me hard. Will this always feel so isolating? Like before, it was because I'm fat. Now it's because I'm trying to fix being fat. Will it always feel like I'm an outsider who finally got a ticket to the show? Wow, this one hits me real. This one hits me real. Can I tell you, I have felt a little bit like a soldier without a country a lot of times in the last several years. When I was the big guy, I felt like I belonged. At least I was part of the big community. I was part of the other people, the weight loss strugglers, the ever dieters. I was always a part of that. And I always looked at the fit, in shape people. It's not that I wasn't friends with fit, in shape people. Of course I was. But it's like there was just whole swaths of life that I just didn't talk about with them, right? It's sort of like I could be friends with somebody at work, but I'm super into photography. They're not. So I don't talk to them about photography because they're not at all into it, right? So for me, I felt like I had this whole food community. I had this whole being fat and out of shape community, which it had its community. And as I started losing weight, I didn't feel like I fit in with that community anymore. But I was like, but I came from you. Like I was you. I spent most of my life in your community. And it felt like as I was leaving it, and then I had this weird like in between phase. That was weird. That was weird being in that in between phase where I wasn't thin, but I was heading the other direction. And that right there was really isolating because it felt like I was sort of in between identities. I wish I could say that on a journey, you're not gonna lose people. I wish I could say that, but that's not true. The truth is you're gonna lose people. You are. A lot of people want to go to the show you're going to. You're going to the thin show. And a lot of people from where you're starting, they want to go with you, but a lot won't. And as you're pulling away, you're going to feel that. It's sort of like if you and your friends, you don't have a lot of money, and none of your friends have a lot of money, and you worked hard, and you end up getting yourself a good job that paid you pretty good. And now all of a sudden you can go do all these things, and none of your friends can go. You can't afford to pay for them, but you can afford to pay for you. And it's like sometimes you'll find that if any of you have ever been in this situation, it's like your folks that don't have the money, they're going to try to hold you back. It reminds me of the story of crabs. You know the story of crabs, right? You put one crab in a bucket, it just climbs right out. You put two crabs in a bucket, the moment one starts trying to climb out, the other grabs it and pulls it back down. It's sort of like that, right? You're pulling away, but it is frustrating. But the other part that was really surprising is when I got to the other side and I got to the thin side, I didn't feel like I fully belonged over there either. That was weird. I wasn't expecting that. The loneliness on that other side. So this is where I think it is helpful to find people along the way that are on the journey. I call them OSPs. These are your supportive people. And now not all of them are going to be losing weight necessarily, but if you have OSPs that are on a weight loss journey, that can just truly change the game. I mean, completely change the game, because now you're not so lonely in the damn middle. I mean, weight loss is a lonely thing. It's something we talk about in the Guild a lot, and people talk about the isolation that comes with it. Because, yeah, you're not alone in that you have support and encouragement, but you are alone in that most of the decisions and the battles are being fought in your own head by yourself. But it is helpful to have people to talk to when you're going through that. So find yourself a good supportive community. This is where some Facebook groups like the Becoming Thin community can be a good one. If you're looking to get you want to get top quality, top shelf community support, that's where you come join the Guild, which, shameless plug, it is open right now. But it's normal to feel like a misfit in the middle. You're shedding an identity. You're not losing yourself. You're shedding off an old way of being yourself. And that lonely feeling, that's a sign that the transformation is happening. It's the price of freedom, you pay the price before. So the loneliness is normal. It is something that will get better with time, because eventually no one will know you were big. People will just assume you've always been skinny. That's where I'm at. People meet me, they have no idea that I was big. So yeah, keep going. Keep going. Find your community. You'll feel like you belong. This is the Becoming Thin podcast. Welcome back to the Becoming Thin podcast. It's been so great to have you here today. Hey, if you've liked this episode of the podcast, please, if you're on Spotify, leave a comment, even a single sentence. That totally helps get the show in front of more people, because people will see an active podcast and they'll want to be a part of it. Also, if you found any episode of this podcast to be helpful, any episode, please share it. Let other people know about it. And if you're on Apple Podcasts especially, I would love it if you give me a review and a rating. But let me earn it. If you're new here, give me a chance to earn it. And just want to remind you that the Guild doors are open right now. You can join for 50% off first month by using promo code MOWL2025. That's MOWL2025. Hey, don't give up on your weight loss journey. I know it's repetitive. I know it's arduous. I know it just feels like it just keeps going and going and going. I get it. Being in a deficit is not always easy. Sometimes it's challenging. But here's the thing I know. As somebody on the other side, and as somebody that's helped lots of other people get on the other side, when you get there, it doesn't feel like a sacrifice. Transformation is hard. It's not easy. It's difficult. It's messy. It's sloppy. It's failure-ridden. You're going to get knocked down a lot, and you're going to have to get up a lot more. Knock the dust off, pick up your lesson, and keep going. If you keep doing that, if you'll commit to never quitting, you will make it. Don't give up. And always remember, a very important truth of you can do hard things. See you next week on the Becoming Thin podcast.